What is that?
It's the Dark Mark, Harry! It's his mark!
Voldemort.
Get to the portkey!
So, we made it to the 4th Harry Potter game. The ones where things supposedly start to take a downward slope. I thought I'd never played this game before, but my brother says that we did used to have it actually, so flipendo my drag, right? Previously, I've looked at the first 3 games in the series, which all took a similar approach of exploring Hogwarts, learning new spells, and completing challenges, all while advancing the plot. Overall, the games were pretty good, with the Chamber of Secrets being the best. However, with the change in developer, the tried and tested formula was about to be shaken up. Let's have a look at Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire was developed and published by EA in 2005, the same year as the film. Before you are dropped into the game, you first get to choose a character to play as out of Harry, Ron and Hermione, a nice touch, and a change from the previous game where the game just plonked you in the body of whoever was necessary at that time. Next we are greeted with a cutscene hinting at the return of Lord Voldemort, and showing the invasion of the Quidditch World Cup by Death Eaters. Although the illustrated storybook scenes are visually impressive, they're nowhere near as fun or engaging as the in-game cutscenes from the previous games. Exploding into the game, you gain control of your chosen character, where the controls have had a revamp from before. Instead of aiming with the mouse and moving in a third-person shooter style, the player moves in the direction the joystick or arrow keys are pushed relative to the camera. You also don't get to control the camera anymore, which actually works out mostly fine for most of the game. There are a few points where it would have been nice to see the enemies about to attack you, but the computer-controlled camera allows for some really nice views of the graphics and scenery. I'll talk about the graphics and presentation properly in a bit, but you can see from the beginning of the game a fair amount of work has gone into developing some great set pieces and grisly environments. Moving towards the portkey, you come across your first enemy, a Dugbog, a kind of bug dog? On-screen instructions tell you how to combat this enemy, where jinxes can be used to stun and eventually defeat creatures, and charms can be used to weaken a creature in some way. For the Dugbogs, they can be levitated with Wingardium Leviosa by one character, and jinxed by another, an effective way of defeating creatures without taking too much damage in the process. Note the teamwork though. There are lots of times in the game where 2 or 3 characters must work together to defeat creatures, unlock gates, or move blocks. The AI of the other 2 characters though, can sometimes unwittingly hinder your progress. For example, they are constantly getting in the way of the object you're trying to move together, or sometimes are just incapable of performing a spell for more than 2 seconds, or occasionally just standing on the thing. Get off, Ron! However, these kinds of puzzles are perfect for local co-op, which thankfully this game offers. 3 people can play together, where hopefully the 2 humans you've gathered will have more brain cells than the AI could muster up. Defeating enemies, as well as jinxing a whole range of other inanimate objects, produces beans. And man, they won't bloody shut up about beans in this game.
Really like these beans. More beans! Beans!
Will you stop going on about beans, Ron?
At least the game is sort of self-aware, I suppose. Most of the beans you collect will be saved up, although 2 kinds can directly help you in your adventure. Red beans restore your health, which I found can go down pretty quickly if you're not paying too much attention. Blue beans fill up your Magicus Extremis bar, which, when full, can be cast to give the characters a power boost, helping defeat creatures more easily, kind of like the Uber charge in TF2. The 4th spell type is Accio.
Accio!
Accio!
Try summoning it with the Accio charm.
Sorry, Accio, which can be used to pull the beans and other treats towards you. The other main treat carried over is the chocolate frog, which, instead of restoring your health, instead acts as a life, where a chocolate frog is used to revive your character after you pass out. Thank God they don't get used up when the AI characters die though. Like, it's not my fault you won't move out of the hot steam, Hermione. Come on, bloody move! The Jinx and Charm spells are cast by aiming the character in the direction and pressing the corresponding button, where the individual spell that's cast is automatically determined and used, meaning there isn't a whole lot of skill required for spell casting, but there are some pretty basic combos you can use for enemies. For example, it's pretty effective to stun a Dugbog with a Jinx, levitate it with a charm, and then eliminate it with another Jinx, rather than wasting time just hitting Jinx multiple times until it dies. This hack and slash combat I think works reasonably well, although it is a bit basic. Finally finding the portkey, you're transported to the level select menu. That's right, in this game you don't explore around Hogwarts to attend lessons and complete challenges. Instead, you unlock levels consecutively and access them from the pensieve. I think it's a real shame that they removed the much loved exploration feature from the Harry Potter games, and it really wouldn't have been hard to tie all the levels together in a main Hogwarts base. The first levels available are tutorial levels with Professor Moody. Or is it? Ooh. Where in the first lesson, he teaches you some of the stuff you've already managed to pick up yourself. Shouldn't they be wearing their robes instead of their own clothes in lessons? In the second lesson, you use the charm Aqua Erupto to extinguish flames, required to cool down fiery salamanders before defeating them with a jinx. But as in the previous game, their main fire pit must also be extinguished to prevent them from reappearing. Unlike in the previous game, however, it's a lot harder to aim at specific things, so a lot of the time when I was trying to put out the fire pit, I would just kill off the salamander, respawning another one and starting the whole process all over again. Get out the way! You also collect your first Triwizard Shield pickups at the end of the level, that are kinda like the completion star from the second game. They are required to unlock future levels, but initially the amount required to move on is very small. You can also level up, but honestly, I have no idea what this does to your character. Able. Capable. Wow, thanks game. What compliments they're flooding in tonight. Also, charms get a rating throughout the game, but I have no idea what makes a cast great or perfect, despite the fact it's me casting it obviously. Before moving on to the first proper level of the game, you can now equip wizard cards to the different characters, but instead of collecting cards throughout the game, they are awarded after leveling up, mastering spells, or defeating creatures, although you still have to buy them with all of those you are collecting. However, in this game, the cards can actually affect the gameplay and for the better. For example, cards can be equipped to increase your top stamina score, weaken certain creatures, or increase the number of jinx cast at once. It's a nice touch, although generally the game isn't difficult enough that they give you a huge advantage. However, I did find that Ron had two great cards that transformed the beans he found into blue and red beans, which was great because I kept somehow getting injured. Entering Hogwarts exterior, you quickly find that the level has a number of paths you can take, instead of a linear path, which is the one thing this game does better in terms of exploration within challenges than the previous games have done. The area looks great, with the flying buttresses catching the golden light from the giant windows, and the darkness of the ground below emphasises the creepiness, especially when these creatures start creeping down the walls. Urklings shoot darts from afar, that can be grappled with Carpe Retractum and their heads encased with a pumpkin before being defeated. They're alright to deal with, although in a pack their darts can be a bit challenging. Near the end of this section, there was a showdown between us, the Urklings, where one of them was speaking really weirdly I think,
Far now, not far to go.
And a great fire to get to the Triwizard Shield. Grabbing the shield, you are transported back to the level select menu, where I had unlocked some new cards, including this one called Friendship. Why is Rita Skeeter the card for Friendship? I was more than happy to go back into the level to explore more around the exterior, and came across some good block moving and cauldron smashing puzzles. Each time you get another Triwizard Shield, you are taken back to the level selection menu, something that wasn't too much of an issue here, as some of the shields were far away from each other. But don't worry, this will be coming up again later. Anyway, moving on to the next level, the Forbidden Forest. I think the plot for this level is the Hungarian horntail dragon has escaped somehow, and you're either trying to go after it or run away from it. I'm not sure. But the characters keep saying about getting a move on for some reason.
Keep going! Hurry up! Get a move on!
I found the landscape of this level to be a bit one note, with bluey green being the theme, with a couple of nice scenes every now and then. Boobotubers are introduced, bulbous slimy plants that shoot pus if you get too close, and they can be flinged with Carpe Retractum, useful for destroying poisonous mushrooms. I thought this was a great action, although a bit hard to control at times. The level ends with a mini-boss, the Blast-Ended Scroot, that can only be jinxed from behind due to its armour. Next up is the first Triwizard Challenge, where you have to zoom away from the Horntail in an on-rails flight level, passing through speed boosts and avoiding fireballs. It's a fast-paced flight, and flying around the castle at breakneck speed is thrilling. After receiving the golden egg, Harry, and Ron and Hermione too apparently, head to the prefect's bathroom to uncover the hidden message, when Ron knocks the egg out of Harry's hands and into the drains. Time to go hunting for the egg then! Exploring the pipes, the level involves avoiding steaming hot jets and rotating giant taps to advance. Good stuff, and it was cool to see a different side of Hogwarts. Eventually finding the egg and learning about the lake, we head to the greenhouse to find some gillyweed. Some shields were visible but currently out of reach. Guess we'll have to come back later. Learning Hibivicus, the trio can now stimulate the growth of certain plants, such as lily pads and flowers. The greenhouse looks pretty nice too, but I love plants, so of course I love the greenhouse. However, this level has some of the most annoying enemies in the game. The vampire wasp, kind of wasp-moth hybrids. Individually they're not too bad, but when they're in 2s or 3s, their stings are super annoying, especially when you're trying to open lily pads to get across the water. And add in the fact that they spawn infinitely, they're probably one of the most annoying parts of the game. I mean, maybe I'm just bad at it, but you can uncover giant flowers to temporarily distract them, but they close far too quickly. Look how many moth things there are, leave me alone! Making your way up a tall greenhouse, the trio cause massive damage, violating the Criminal Damage Act of 1971 before collecting the gillyweed and buggering off. Taking a break for a moment, it's time to have a look at the presentation of the game. As I've been saying throughout, the game looks pretty great. Scenes and levels are generally interesting, although some of the levels can feel a bit empty at times. Particle effects and lighting are good, the Carpe Retractum and Wingardium Leviosa spells looking especially impressive. And there are also some realistic shadows from the characters. Speaking of the characters, Hermione looks okay, Harry looks a bit, dead? And Ron is just a bit potato-like. As for the other characters, well, there aren't really that many of them. They look okay for brief moments that they're on screen, but it would have been nice to see more of them within levels. Music, once again by Jeremy Soule, is great as usual, and the voice acting is serviceable, with a few funny lines.
It's really hot in here.
That might be because it's a greenhouse, Ronald.
A bridge!
How observant of you, Ronald.
But god, they won't stop repeating themselves.
Get to the portkey! Get to the portkey! Get to the portkey!
Going back to the game, you find you can't access the next Triwizard Tournament challenges yet, as you need to collect more Triwizard shields. No problem, right? Remember when I said that the game takes you back to the level select after getting a shield? This is where it starts to get really annoying. To access the third challenge, I needed 11 shields, which means repeatedly going into a level, getting a shield, leaving the level, going back into the level, rinse and repeat. It's especially dumb when you make progress towards a faraway shield, find a shield halfway along, and just have to repeat everything you've done all over again. It just feels like an annoying artificial way of increasing the length of the game, because thinking about it, there's only 4 proper levels. Anyway, eventually making it to the Triwizard challenges, you have to swim in another on-rails level, jinxing Grindylows and Merpeople along the way, until you reach the end. I was on 10 health for about half of the level, and I was terrified of dying, as I did not want to have to repeat it again. It was okay, but just, you know, once is enough. Next up is the maze, where it's split into 3 segments. Initially, you have to explore around the maze, which did actually feel like a real maze, as I had no idea where I was going. Eventually, you meet up with your pals,
Harry!
and have to escape the maze trying to engulf you, which was actually pretty thrilling. Lastly, Cedric has been crucified, and you have to defeat 2 blast-ended Scroots. The level ends rather abruptly.
Go on. Take it. Together.
Before you take on the big cheese himself, Voldemort. Although, you never really have to directly fight him yourself. Initially, you have to send skeletons flying to smash them apart, which was pretty cool. Next, you do the big wand spell light thingy, where you then have to smash more skeletons, followed by Voldemort trying to smash you with the big stone angel, which you also have to smash. Smash, smash, smash. And that's that on that. If you really wanted to, you could try and collect every single shield and collectible, but as if I was doing that. Moody also has some challenges, which could be fun if you want to prolong your experience even more, but I think at this point, I've seen enough. So, I did it. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. It was nowhere near as bad as I was expecting, and I did actually like quite a lot about it, but man, having to go back into those levels again and again, that was just too much. Overall, it was pretty good. Splitting up the game into levels did kind of kill the flow completely for me, but I did like the hack and slash direction the game was going in. Now, am I going to do the other Harry Potter games? Subscribe and find out how much I hate myself. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Hermione, what are you doing? You're literally just closing yourself in. I'm trying to shoot these things through there to get rid of the mushrooms, Hermione. Hermione! Hermione, you're just stuck now, so, well done. Let me just open this for you, God. You know what, Hermione? Seeing as you like being stuck behind gates, just stand there for a moment. Just stand there while I pull this. Yep. Yeah, well done, Hermione. Good. There you go. There you go, Hermione. Don't come out. Just stay there. No, just stay there.
Get to the port key!